All right, so this is going to be the solution to your JavaScript task 4. It says Amelia wants a web page that customers can use to make an inquiry about a booking. The web page must meet the following requirements: a check that the forename field is completed, a check that the surname field is completed, a check that the telephone number field is completed, check that the value entered into the number in party field is between 1 and 10 inclusive. Suitable error messages must appear when the submit button is clicked if any of the above checks fail. Using the file hungrywebsite.html, add a script to meet the requirements of Amelia's web page. Programmer comments must be added to annotate each requirement. Save your website as hungry_website_center number_candidate number. This carries 16 marks. So let's open up Dreamweaver and import or drag drop our file into Dreamweaver. Next, the very first step I told you to do is look at the design first. Check the elements. I can see a button. Probably there are input boxes. Have a look at it in the design view and then open it up in your browser. So I've got this input boxes. I've got a button which I can click. Nothing happens. Close and then come back and now review the codes for each of the elements which are added into your web page. Selecting the first one, going on to the code. It says that this is basically a table in which there is an input type text. So it's an input box with the name set to forename and the value is set to blank. I told you that in order to refer to elements in the web page, they need to have an ID. It has a name, no ID. So instead of name, I'm going to put this as ID. Similarly, surname is also referred to as name. I'm going to change this to ID. Email, where I have to input my email, that needs to be an ID. Telephone number, that also needs to be an ID. Date, time, okay. Then we have the input type as submit value submit. This is not an input. It's basically supposed to be a button. And the button which calls a function so that it can work. So instead of input type, I would declare this to be a button. The text on the button is going to be submit and I need to end the button. Secondly, this button needs to call a function. What do we need to add? We need to add on click equals to, and you name your function. Let's say the function is check, round bracket open close, enclose in speech marks. Now in order to make sure that this button actually works with my script, I will just quickly write down a very short code as my script. So initiate the script first and end the script. What will I write? I will write a function which is called check, round bracket open close, curly bracket open close. In the curly bracket, I need to have my operations. So I will just type in a very simple pop-up, which is alert, and it is hello. So this way I can check whether my button works with my script or not. Run it. What needs to be closed? Oh, inverted commas, yes. So if I click on submit, the pop-up comes, which means my button is operating fine. It will run the script. Input boxes are already given IDs now. I can refer to an element in my web page by get the element by ID. Now, what do I need to check? I need to see that the forename field is completed. How do I know it's completed? That means it is not being left as blank. Okay. So simple check. I will add, instead of the alert, now I will add if round bracket open, close, curly bracket open, close, else, curly bracket open, close. Now if this is my logical test, the value of true is going to be here, the false part is going to be here. Logical test. If document dot get element by ID what's the document dot get element by ID? What's the check? Where do I need to apply the check? Forename. So what do I do now? Do I need to put in round bracket open close? What do I need to name this? Forename dot what? Value equals to blank. Get the element by the ID forename and the value is compared to what? Blank. If it is left blank, it should prompt me an alert message that I need to fill in the forename. Now since I have decided, or let's say I have given the forename an ID already, I can also type in forename dot value is equals to empty. This should work as well because forename is being changed to an ID. If that happens, alert, please fill in the forename input box. Let's check this. If I leave it blank, click on submit, it says please fill in the forename input box. Close it, come back. Did you get this? And if the value is not blank, then there is no alert. A check that the surname field is completed. After this check is done, you have to check that the surname field is completed or not. I will copy this. Paste this. Now this is going to be surname. And this also needs to be, the prompt needs to be surname. I'm treating them as a separate if. This done. Then check that the telephone number field is completed. Okay, fine. Telephone number field. Surname was this. I mentioned it with capital S, so I need to change this. Now the telephone number ID is this. So I will again paste this. Now it's the tel number. So tel no and fill in the telephone. This S can be capital. This is just a prompt. Can we check these? Save them, run it, click on submit. You get the forename message, fill in the forename, click on OK. You get the surname message, you get the telephone number. And if I fill this in, and the telephone number, let's say we fill that in as well, you click on submit, nothing happens. No prompt. Let's say we leave out forename blank, surname, fill it out, telephone, fill it out, click on submit, we get the forename message. Okay, so let's have the forename filled out, surname left blank, telephone number added, click on submit, we get the surname message. Similarly, it will operate or work for the telephone number as well. So all the checks applied. Now what? A check that the value entered into the number in party field is between 1 and 10 exclusive. Number in party. Which one? Number in party is this. So we click on it. We click on code and look at the ID. What's the ID? The ID is num. We'll apply if num dot value is greater than or equals to 1 and num dot value is less than or equals to 10. Sorry. And this is value. When that happens, it should do nothing. If it doesn't, then we go for an alert. So alert the user, you have entered a number which is not acceptable or invalid, anything. Test it out. So we add a phoneme, we add the surname, telephone number, number in party, let's say I have 20. You get this? All right. Suitable error messages must appear when the submit button is clicked if any of the above checks fail. I think we're done. View it in the web browser. So this is appearing as you have entered a number which is not acceptable. It appears by default. Okay. What can we do? It needs to work with the function. The function needs to end after this. Now run it. Nothing happens. You type in the phoneme, your surname, your email address, whatever it is, your telephone number, date of booking can be added, number in party. So if I write in 10 and click on submit, nothing happens. No error message. If let's say value is 30, which is beyond 10, Also notice there is no forename, no surname, no telephone number. So the checks will apply to these and then the error message for the number in party. So click on submit, forename, surname, telephone number, and the number that you entered is not acceptable. So that was the solution to your task 4. Loops are used in programming to repeat a section of the code. Explain the difference between a counting loop and a condition loop. Place this in a Word document. Use no more than 150 words. The counting loop basically runs the instructions for a certain number of times. Counting loop runs the conditions for a certain number of times. Whereas the condition loop only runs if the condition is true. And there are two types. One is precondition, one is postcondition. So when we discuss loops, we will also talk about counting loops and the conditional loops. Otherwise, the JavaScript part of this paper is being solved.